This story comes from the pages of the Marvel comic Hellhunters #1. Please support the official release. The tale begins during World War II, in the snow-covered woods of Kaliningrad, Russia, where we see a team of badly wounded German officers making their way through a blizzard while being pursued by Russian troopers. Delighted to take down some Nazis, the Russians closed in on the enemy, but would soon be stopped dead in their tracks. It would not be the bitter winter cold that would halt their march. It would be something much worse, as they'd come across what appeared to be a deer skull adorned in red ribbon with a bloodied upside-down iron cross piercing it. The squad commander, knowing exactly what this was, told his men to immediately pull back, where a naive younger soldier would argue, saying that they had the enemy on the run. The commander would assert his order, saying that the Nazis wouldn't make it far, for whatever they were about to encounter would be a fate worse than death. As we are taken to the Germans, we would see one of them pass out from his injuries and fall to the snowy ground. One of the soldiers named Bruckner argued that they should leave him to die, where their leader retorted, saying he was still one of them, and ordered for Bruckner to pick him up, much to Bruckner's chagrin, where the commander then said that the fallen soldier's injuries were no worse than Bruckner's, and if he were to pass out next, how would he feel if they too left him to die? Locating what appeared to be an abandoned cabin of some kind, the commander ordered his men inside, where, much to their horror, this cabin began to move, where emerged a zombified demonic horse chained to a tree, with its flesh literally peeling off the bone. It would then speak to the men, belittling them, saying they were nothing more than 6 dead boys playing soldier in the snow. In complete disbelief of what he was seeing, the officer pulled out his weapon, telling the creature that it was not real, where it delivered one of the coolest and most threatening lines I have read in a comic in a very long time.
"You and your men are dead and damned for the murder of a nation of innocents. The moment your mucus freezes in your throats, you'll smell your own meats cooking on the spits of hell."
Man, this line is so cold. Shout out to writer Philip Kennedy Johnson for bringing us this absolute banger dialogue. Adamant that the monster wasn't real, the officer conversed with the creature, where it told him it could save he and his men. All they had to do was free its soul from this cage. Confused, as this thing just said their souls were literally damned to hell, the officer questioned the creature what it meant by this, where it told them that their souls were beyond salvation. However, it could still make their physical bodies immortal. Powerful men, the undying champions of the Reich. For a split second, the officer would be intrigued, but common sense would set right back in, where he told the creature that he did not trust the lives of his men in the hand of this literal demon. And within the very next panel, the officer would be shot right in the head, betrayed by the bloodied Bruckner, who told the demon that he accepted this offer. Delighted that one of these men had some brains, the demented horse creature then told Bruckner to step forward and prepare to receive everlasting life. The man would then do so and approach the beast, where it would tear into his neck, where he'd then fall to his knees in immense pain. Instead of bleeding out and dying like most men typically would, the Nazis would look on in terror and amazement as Bruckner's eyes would begin to glow as a powerful shadow-like entity would pour into his body. With his squad mates asking just what happened, we would then see a demonic zombie-like Bruckner pounce upon them, saying that they too would now receive what he was promised. 6 months later, in the skies above Nazi-occupied France, we would see a plane full of US soldiers ready to deploy upon the enemy. Here we'd see an eager young soldier named Sal Romero, who turned to his friend Cruz asking if he was ready for this, where Cruz said that he himself would take Adolf down and steal his mustache, where he'd wear it as a trophy back home. His superiors would then bring him back to reality, saying that they were getting ready to drop soon. As the troopers readied up for battle, they soon realized something was amiss, as the air became suddenly cold, where it would begin to snow inside of the plane. Almost instantly, a series of icicles would begin to slice into the plane, literally tearing the soldiers apart. Within seconds, the entire carrier would be decimated, where we'd see even the energetic young Cruz have his head completely shattered by this mysterious ice energy. We would see one lone soldier survive, and that would be Romero, where he'd activate his parachute and attempt to land, but as fate would have it, a wave of this energy would then destroy the chute, where the man would plummet to the earth below. Hurtling into the forest, Romero would then bash his face off of a branch, where his parachute would become tangled with the trees, trapping him in the air. Within mere moments, this hopeful American soldier was left battered, bloodied, and left all alone, with no one coming to save him. He would not be completely alone, however, where Romero would soon hear the sound of someone singing a German song. Still stranded amongst the trees, the wounded Romero would see 6 shadowy figures approaching and ask just who they were. The figures would then reveal themselves, where we'd see Bruckner from earlier in this story, along with the other Nazis. They had all changed now, given some sort of bizarre power from the mysterious zombie being. Romero would then tell the soldiers to stand back, where, much to his horror, he would witness Bruckner transform into a dark, demonic creature, where it would then sprout wings and take to the forest skies. Romero would open fire on the beast, saying he would kill it and avenge his men. His attacks would be in vain, however, as the demon Bruckner would lunge upon the man and bite right into his neck, where he'd pierce his flesh and tear out his heart. In a disturbing next set of events, we'd see Romero's body erupt into blue flames, where Bruckner would tell him to give the devil his regards, for he'd be sending many more of his American friends his way to keep him company. In an unknown amount of time later, we'd see the withered and rotted corpse of Romero hanging in the trees as more planes would fly overhead. We would then see what appeared to be a crow of some kind land right on the dead man's shoulder, where it would begin to speak. It would ask Romero if he knew what it was, where Romero, shockingly still having some life left in him, would say yes. The crow would then begin to pick and feed into the man's decayed flesh, where it would ask him if he desired vengeance upon the men who did this to him, and if this vengeance was enough to pay the ultimate price. Without hesitation, Romero would grab the bird by the throat, where he would answer with a weakened but determined yes. We would then see the crow's eyes begin to glow, where it would plunge into the open wound where Romero's heart once was. We would then see the man's body envelop in flaming chains, where his flesh would instantly melt off of his body. The voice of this mysterious bird would then tell him that his killers bore the spirit of the one he hated above all, and now Romero would bear his. Reborn as a new creature, this voice would tell Romero to rise, where he would emerge as a spirit of vengeance, this era's Ghost Rider. Not long after this transformation, Romero would be fired upon, where he'd then use his chains to combat his attackers, who appeared to be using some sort of mystical weaponry. Magic or not, this would not be enough to take down the mighty Ghost Rider, who used his flames to begin to set the forest ablaze. Before things could get too out of hand, we'd hear a voice of one of the soldiers calling his troopers back. These men too were American, and recognized Romero's colors. Surprisingly quite calm for seeing a man with a literal flaming skull for a head, this soldier is revealed to be a young, and white, Nick Fury, who was joined by Sergeant Sebastian Zardos and a young Peggy Carter. Together they were part of a special force called the Howling Commandos. With Romero also introducing himself and what unit he was from, he told the team he was looking for the men who killed his squad, where Fury and his team seemingly were all too familiar with the Demon Frost Nazis who seemed to be plaguing the land. Sebastian then told Romero that he was not the first Ghost Rider he had met and could certainly use his help in this battle with the enemy. Relishing this chance to avenge his fallen brothers, Romero joined the team. Due to his rather flaming hot new aesthetic, the team could not let the guy ride with them in their Jeep. However, they did have a sick looking World War II era Harley on standby, where the man ignited his ride and took off with his team on a hellish new quest of vengeance.